What if I told you that most salespeople are not losing deals because their product isn't good enough, but because most salespeople are still making these 3 extremely rookie mistakes that are killing their deals dead in their tracks? I'm going to break down these 3 critical mistakes and how they separate the top performers from the average reps. These aren't theories from a textbook, guys. These are battle-tested strategies from salespeople that are all making 6 figures. My name is Drew Long. If you don't know me, I've built multiple sales teams to over 8 figures annually and over 150 sellers. And currently my company, Sales by Tomorrow, helps companies grow from $0 in profit to over $1 million in profit within 18 months. By the end of this guide, you're gonna know exactly how to avoid these 3 rookie mistakes, and if you're tempted to do them, how you're gonna turn them into closing opportunities. Mistake number 1 is accepting the prospect's price comparison framework. Listen, guys, the most important lesson in sales I can give you is that sales and pricing is all about comparisons. If you control the comparison, you control the sale. A common mistake is, by default, your prospect is going to compare your price to 0, i.e., what they think is the cost of doing nothing. So you have to do one of 2 things. Either you have to agitate the cost of inaction and let them know that the price of not doing this is actually a large multiple of your actual price for your product or service, or you have to compare to the cost of them assembling this service, this product, this solution on their own, which, because they're not an expert like you, is going to invariably be a multiple of what you're actually charging. Here's the lethal mistake that most salespeople do. When most people face a price hesitation or concern or objection, they defend rather than reframe. Reframing is the art of putting the information in a different comparison in light of a different context. So it's the 80% lean versus 20% fat beef. Which one do you think they label at the supermarket? Which one do you think sells better? You're right, it's 80% lean. 80% lean beef outsells 20% fat beef every time because of positive framing. The solution and what you need to do here is control the frame of reference. Again, master the comparisons and master the objection. So number 1, you're going to compare to their current pain point. Oh, with us not charging thousands in monthly interest payments like traditional lenders, we just have a small monthly fee to keep the lights on. For example, in perhaps a real estate lending scenario, you could compare a monthly fee of 149 months to 0, or you can compare a monthly fee of $149 to $3,000 per month. Which do you think wins in that scenario? Use everyday analogies that they understand. Okay, even American Express charges you $695 a year for their platinum card. That's just for credit. You can't shop at Costco without a membership. Everything has a cost. Analogies are key to setting the right frame around your pricing, especially when you're comparing a non-traditional pricing model to an industry standard. Number 3, position it as an investment, not an expense. Okay, when you're making $50,000 in profit, I guess help me understand, does $149 feel like a big investment in light of $50,000 in profit? Always focus on ROI, not the cost. Now, you have to be sure and you have to be careful here because you need them to fully buy into the ROI calculation you're using. But if you're any good, you should be able to do that. Here's number 4, a unique one. Compare a profit split scenario. Let's look at a typical deal. If you're making 50 grand profit and we're making 25 grand, is that fair to you? Most people will not go down and say, hey, I want you to make less profit on a deal. I want you to lose while I'm winning. So when you are able to position your product as they win more than you win, you're usually going to win the deal. And then number 5, compare low recurring costs to big value. Don't say, for instance, that people are paying for software because people will always compete on software or subscription fees, which they consider a commodity. You want to reframe all of your offers away from commodity offerings, such as license fees, seat fees. You want to reframe them into something like a platform fee. Like a platform fee or a membership fee is a lot more justifiable than just a software license. Now, to really master comparisons, it's an art. And the best way to get better at this is practice. It just so happens that I have a free school community group you guys can join down below to get a role play partner, get an accountability buddy, get someone who's going to role play and practice with you daily. If you're a seller in B2B or B2C, we have folks that can help you role play practice. And if there's no one that you find in there that you like, I will role play practice with you. So go down there, check out our school community. It's free to try for 7 days, and then it's $29 a month after that, which is less than $1 per day to massively improve your sales skills. There are multiple sellers that I, in my career, have helped get to over 6 figures in commissions, and I can help you as well. So go check that out if you want role play partners. Mistake number 2 is missing what prospects are really saying. You can't just listen at a superficial level in sales, guys. You have to have sharp ears. What I mean by sharp ears is you have to be listening at multiple different levels simultaneously, and you have to be so sharp that nothing escapes your attention. Most people do want to be fundamentally honest, guys, which means they will tell you what's going on in their mind. This means they'll often phrase things in the exact ways that's going to reveal their situation, but without attracting your notice. They're relying on you probably not having sharp ears, which is why when I train my salespeople to have sharp ears, they become so lethal pretty much overnight. So here's a real example. We had a prospect who was objecting to an ongoing monthly recurring fee, but the fee was absurdly small compared to their likely ROI. They were getting on the order of a 335% ROI. But right before that, the prospect had said, oh, I'd probably go with the standard package once I come up with that startup fee. The salesperson completely missed this. Then the prospect felt the need to object to the small monthly fee. But those 4 words, once I come up with, revealed the real objection wasn't about the monthly fee at all. It was all a smokescreen. This is the type of stuff you have to have sharp ears to catch, guys. People will throw out very honest statements, but counting on you not to pick up on them. So here's what you guys have to dial into: the 4 levels of listening mastery. First of all, of course, you're listening for what's being said. When they mention things like, I need to prepare financially, often the needed funds, that means the needed funds are unavailable. When they say, once I come up with the money, they don't currently have the funds. When they say, I'll have to think about it after a very thorough presentation, there's nothing to think about. So that's not a logical statement. Something's being unsaid. When they ask about payment plans unprompted, that's your key that they might not have financial security or the capital upfront needed. When they focused heavily on the lowest price option, when the highest price option is clearly a better deal. And this is a key for you guys in packaging and positioning. You can go to your offer owner, you can go to your business owner, or if you are the business owners, it's actually your responsibility to make sure that your highest price offering, the one that puts the most cash in your pocket the quickest, is actually the most attractive from a customer standpoint, so you can increase your average purchase price. Number 2, listen for what's not being said. Often people will ignore talking about money entirely to avoid facing that they don't have the necessary funds. I could afford X is also the same as saying I cannot afford Y. I think X would be valuable may also be saying X, Y, Z, A, B, and C are all not valuable. That might be someone who's just about to attempt to piece out your program or your service. Number 3, listen for smoke screens. Hyperfixation on small deals that shouldn't logically kill a deal are likely smokescreens. People often pick up one thing to harp on and rationalize why this will kill a deal because it's the bigger unaddressed or unacknowledged issue that they don't want to confront. Pierce the smokescreen with direct questioning. Is this more about the ongoing cost, really? Or is it more about you don't have the capital available, do you just not have the money? Or I guess I'm a little confused. Why are you fixated on this one deal when we already established that this program would help you get to ABC huge goal? And then 4, you also want to listen for potential solutions. Let's say you identify that cash flow is a concern. You're going to pivot to potential solutions. Like, have you considered putting a deposit down? Have you considered using a credit card? Okay, what's your plan to get access to the capital? Listen for statements that indicate people have existing resources or resourcefulness. Maybe they have friends, partners, other vendors, other assets, or a willingness to get unconventional to make sure they can pull the funds or pull the budget together from other sources. In B2B, you've often heard the stories from great sellers where the company, like maybe a huge company like Google, said to them, we don't have any budget for X. But when you reframe the value and you use these comparisons that I've been teaching you about, suddenly they're going to pull the budget from somewhere else. There's always money available for things that are deemed a priority within a company, within a business, within a person's life. So listen for those 4 things: what's being said, what's not being said, what they're smoke screening you on, and their problem-solving ability or their willingness to go into a problem-solving mode, which you're going to need them to do. Mistake number 3 is issuing commands that work against you. It's amazing to me how many salespeople, even at an intermediate or advanced level, will continue to say things on calls where they're issuing commands to the prospect to do things that they don't really want the prospect to do. Remember, guys, sales is leadership. So when you're in a leadership position and you're issuing commands, the prospect is going to want to follow your commands. So here's an example of the command that killed the deal. This rep made a seemingly innocent mistake that cost him the entire deal. When showing pricing packages, he said verbatim, "Take your time, look them over, let me know if you have any questions." Guess what the prospect did? They took their time, they looked the packages over, and they did not have any questions. They just ghosted the salesperson. This was him issuing a command to take their time and look things over. Now, why would you do this? When you issue a command, expect that the prospect will follow it. If you tell them to take their time, they will often literally take their time right out of the deal. So these are the commands that you should be issuing instead. Use interrogatives to command towards the close. Wrong. Take your time and think it over. Right. Now, which package do you think would make it easiest for you folks to reach your goal of X? Number 2, assume the sale. Instead of saying, if you decide to move forward, you would say, now in your first 6 months with us, you will probably find that XYZ is true about working with us. It's assumptive language. 3, don't ask what they want to do, provide a clear future. So instead of saying something like, how would you like to proceed? Or do you guys see anything here that would help you? you're going to say, well, the next step is simply to cover our agreement for the package you chose. Do you have your email pulled up? Now, it's important that I caveat this. I'm not saying that always and in all cases it's wrong to say these statements, such as how would you like to proceed, or if you decide to move forward, or take your time to think it over. There are situations in sales where those would be the exact right thing to say. I'm just saying when we're making decisions unconsciously and we're letting these phrases roll off our tongue because it feels socially appropriate, we're using a social script and schema from the default world. We're not using the social script and schema that we need to be using from the sales world. They are two different things. What feels natural and comfortable in a conversation with our friends or our parents or our partners is not the type of way we want to structure a conversation in a sales environment. We want to structure our sales conversations in a very much more deliberate way. Every word that you use, every sentence that you speak, every question that you ask, every statement that you make, these all need to be chosen consciously and carefully in a sales environment. Whereas we might throw something off casually to our partner or spouse. Yeah, honey, take some time, think over where you want to go for dinner tonight. We would never do the same thing that casually and unconsciously in a sales situation, because that could literally be us issuing a command for our prospects to go to no decision and get off the phone. Hopefully that makes sense. Number 4, you want to land them on a purchase option. Now, I could do a whole video on the importance and the skill necessary to land people on purchase options and package options, but basically you want to get them committed to a specific package before discussing next steps. So you want to use language like, well, if you guys were to do it, which package would you land on? If they're being hesitant and skittish, you would say, well, I know you're not necessarily going to agree right now, but if you were to do it, which package would you do? And what are the pros and cons? Why would you do that one versus the other one? That's called landing them on a package. To hit your goal of 10x growth next year, which package would make the most sense? So a lot of more people like ABC about the standard package, and then again, the drawbacks are why. Which of those sides of the coin appeal to you more? If someone says we need to take some time to think about which package options we want to go with, you want to be like, oh, of course, perfectly fine, take all the time you need. Just curious, and then you're going to go right into the pros and cons of the packages, and you're going to start helping them make that decision right there on the phone call. Because once they've talked through the packages, the reality is they probably know which one they want to land on. And it's your job is to land the plane, land them on the package options. And then number 5, you got to control the follow-up process. Rather than letting them dictate the timeline like, oh, I'll think about it and call you next week once I've made a decision, you want to lead them into your closing process with authority. Okay, so from here, if you're sure this is a yes, but you just need to move funds around, I can give you a few hours to do that. Once I do that, I can take a deposit to reserve your spot for our onboarding team and then let them see when you'd be available, maybe later today or tomorrow, to take care of this and get you started. That would be called controlling the frame on the follow-up process. Bonus mistake, number 4, I'm extremely generous. I gave you a bonus mistake that people make, which is giving up the one-call close mindset. Now, I don't care if you guys are in B2B or in B2C. I don't care if you're selling a $1,500 package or a $1 million deal. You should have the same mindset. Let's not stretch this into more calls than we need. Let's not stretch it into 5 calls if it could be 4, and let's not stretch it into 2 calls if it could be 1. The mathematical logic of this mindset is inescapable. If you make your primary living by spending your time closing deals that bring in revenue or commissions, then taking 2 hours or 2 calls instead of 1 to close a deal ties up your precious time and limited resources that could go to fresh prospects. Follow-up calls have lower close rates than initial calls. Remember that. Every time someone gets off the phone with you, there's a chance they will not come back. Sales velocity directly impacts your income or your company's growth rate, and time efficiency determines your earning potential. So let's say you take an average of 2.5 hours to close a deal, and someone else in your industry takes an average of 1.2 hours to close a deal. Who's going to win in the end? I think the math is pretty inescapable. Your goal is not to be polite and give people plenty of time. Your goal is to help prospects make decisions that move their lives forward. And sometimes that requires them to make some hard decisions. So here's your action plan to master these principles. First of all, become a master of comparisons. Reframe price objections or any kind of objections with superior frame control and comparison game. Number 2, develop your sharp ears. Hear the real message behind smokescreens and surface level objections. Number 3, develop your commanding towards the close. Issue commands that move towards closing instead of opening the door to more delays. And number 4, develop a one-call close mindset. Mentally prepare for closing regardless of the length of what people have told you your typical sales cycle should be. When you remember that you're offering something valuable that solves real problems, these principles are going to be natural extensions of truly helping people, which is what you want to be doing. Now, what objections have tripped you guys up? Go ahead and put those down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.